When you deeply think of massive Florida wealth, you naturally picture elite Wall Street hedge fund managers aggressively relocating their firms to Miami or flashy, newly minted crypto billionaires partying on massive South Beach yachts. But that is a carefully engineered, highly deceptive public illusion. The absolute real power quietly crossing the Gulf of Mexico is fundamentally far more entrenched. Today, we count down the richest Mexican families that own Florida. Number 6. The Peralta Family. The high-altitude recluses. Long before the massive, highly publicized global tech boom ever existed, absolute, untouchable wealth in the nation of Mexico was systematically generated by fiercely controlling the raw, physical utilities that fundamentally powered the developing nation. Carlos Peralta Quintero stands as the formidable, highly intimidating chairman and chief executive officer of Grupo IUSA, an incredibly massive, deeply entrenched Mexican industrial conglomerate. Originally founded by his visionary father back in the year 1939, the sprawling corporate entity known as Grupo IUSA absolutely does not build lightweight, flashy consumer smartphone apps or highly speculative digital platforms. Instead, they physically manufacture the incredibly heavy electrical infrastructure, the miles of essential copper tubing, the millions of residential power meters, and the highly complex telecommunications hardware that quite literally, physically, keeps the lights turned on across the entire expanse of Mexico. Over the span of several decades, they successfully established a terrifyingly efficient, highly monopolistic grip on the fundamental public utilities absolutely required by both the sovereign Mexican government and the rapidly expanding private sector. Through this uncompromising dominance, they successfully secured staggering billions of dollars in highly lucrative, completely inescapable federal and corporate contracts. However, heavily relying on massive industrial manufacturing strictly tied to highly complex government utility contracts provides an incredibly powerful daily revenue stream, but it simultaneously leaves the corporate empire highly exposed to sudden political shifting, regulatory crackdowns, and severe domestic economic downturns. The highly intelligent Peralta family clearly recognized that their massive, deeply entrenched, peso-denominated wealth desperately needed to be heavily and permanently insulated from these volatile macroeconomic risks. They aggressively protected their multi-generational fortune by entirely quietly extracting their liquid capital directly from the heavily regulated Mexican industrial sector. They then began methodically funneling those massive cash reserves directly into ultra-luxury, highly secure, completely dollar-denominated American real estate. They specifically, deliberately targeted the highly resilient, fiercely exclusive, and globally coveted coastal enclaves of South Florida to serve as their ultimate financial fortress. The absolute ultimate, highly visible physical flex of the powerful Peralta dynasty was their highly aggressive, multi-million-dollar entry into the specific neighborhood of Sunny Isles Beach. This area is a highly concentrated, incredibly wealthy strip of pristine sand located just north of downtown Miami that is now universally referred to by elite global real estate insiders simply as the Billionaire Bunker. Carlos Peralta Quintero successfully secured a massive, ultra-luxurious, highly customized residential unit directly inside the towering, world-famous Porsche design tower. This specific, incredibly expensive high-rise building was highly intelligently and specifically engineered explicitly for the ultra-wealthy global elite who strictly demand absolute, uncompromised, and total paranoia regarding their personal privacy and physical security. The general American public routinely assumes that highly secretive foreign billionaires excitedly buy massive penthouses in Miami, primarily to actively partake in the vibrant, chaotic nightlife, the highly publicized celebrity restaurant scene, and the bright cultural flash of South Beach. The Peralta family's incredibly quiet, isolated existence definitively proves that this assumption is a complete, fundamental consumer illusion. The massive Porsche design tower prominently features a highly complex, totally patented, multi-million-dollar robotic automobile elevator, widely known throughout the luxury real estate industry as the Deservator. This incredible, highly specialized piece of architectural machinery physically allows secretive billionaires exactly like Peralta to seamlessly drive their heavy, bulletproof luxury vehicles directly into an advanced elevator system. They are then rapidly hoisted hundreds of feet directly into the sky, ultimately parking their high-end car securely inside their very own private, glass-walled living room. Because of this unprecedented mechanical engineering, they absolutely never have to physically step foot in a crowded public lobby. They never have to speak to a valet attendant, and they never have to interact with the general public in any conceivable way. They absolutely do not come to the state of Florida to be seen by the paparazzi or the public. They come to Florida specifically to safely exist in heavily fortified, completely invisible, vertical panic rooms. They are highly effectively utilizing prime Miami coastal real estate simply as a highly luxurious, completely impenetrable safety deposit box for their massive industrial fortunes. Number 5. The Salinas family, the liquid provocateurs. While many international billionaires prefer to remain entirely in the shadows, Ricardo Salinas Pliego is absolutely not a quiet, highly traditional, or reserved billionaire. He is widely recognized as one of the absolutely most highly visible, incredibly aggressive, and deeply controversial corporate titans operating in the entire nation of Mexico, personally commanding a truly staggering net worth that frequently fluctuates well over the $10 billion mark. Operating as the highly vocal, fiercely independent chairman of Grupo Salinas, he exercises absolute, unyielding control over a massively sprawling corporate empire that completely dominates both the national media landscape and the massive consumer retail sector. He brilliantly acquired the massive television network TV Azteca during a highly controversial, massive wave of Mexican government corporate privatizations that occurred in the 1990s. Through ruthless corporate restructuring and aggressive market expansion, he successfully transformed it into the absolute second-largest television broadcaster in the entire country. He simultaneously, highly strategically built the massive corporate entity known as Grupo Electra, which currently stands as an absolute retail and financial leviathan. This specific business model highly aggressively targets the massively underserved, largely unbanked working-class populations spread across all of Latin America. By systematically selling highly desired consumer goods strictly on high-interest credit and completely monopolizing the highly lucrative international remittance market directly through his proprietary banking arm, Banco Azteca, Salinas essentially operates as his very own, completely centralized, highly profitable financial ecosystem. While highly traditional, deeply conservative Mexican billionaires typically protect their multi-generational wealth simply by quietly hoarding massive portfolios of physical commercial real estate or highly stable government bonds, Salinas Pliego took a violently, publicly contrarian financial approach. He highly publicly and aggressively declared massive global fiat bonds to be a fundamentally terrible investment. Acting on this bold macroeconomic thesis, he highly aggressively shifted a truly massive multi-billion-dollar portion of his personal, highly liquid investment portfolio directly into entirely decentralized digital assets. He quickly became one of the absolute most globally prominent, highest net worth public advocates for Bitcoin on the entire planet. He uses this decentralized technology to actively, highly securely shield his immense, almost incomprehensible purchasing power from the constant, highly destructive inflationary pressures regularly engineered by global central banks. Salinas absolutely did not just simply buy a massive amount of cryptocurrency and quietly hide in an underground bunker. He highly aggressively, very publicly positioned himself at the absolute, undeniable epicenter of the massive global crypto revolution, the city of Miami, Florida. While he continues to strictly oversee and run his massive, highly complex retail and media operations directly from his headquarters in Mexico City, he actively utilizes the state of Florida as his primary ideological and highly lucrative financial playground. He quickly became a highly visible, completely dominant, and widely respected presence at the massive, highly publicized Bitcoin conferences hosted annually in Miami. By actively rubbing shoulders with highly influential American tech billionaires and elite software developers, he is perfectly positioning his massive family office to entirely capitalize on the city's rapidly expanding, highly lucrative decentralized finance sector. Furthermore, he has repeatedly proven that he is highly willing to use his immense financial leverage to engage in massive geopolitical corporate warfare. When he personally felt deeply slighted by highly contentious American corporate politics, He famously and highly aggressively utilized his massive media conglomerate to completely financially outmaneuver Donald Trump. He aggressively, rapidly bought the highly expensive, exclusive sponsorship rights to a massive, highly prestigious PGA golf tournament. In a massive display of financial dominance, he entirely relocated the historic event completely away from Trump's legendary Doral Resort located in Miami, moving the multi-million-dollar economic engine directly to Mexico. He absolutely treats the highly lucrative Florida market exactly like a massive, high-stakes geopolitical chessboard. The mainstream American financial media very frequently views ultra-wealthy foreign billionaires strictly and exclusively through the highly outdated lens of traditional, slow-moving brick-and-mortar investments. They completely, fundamentally misunderstand the highly advanced, incredibly aggressive Salinas strategy. Ricardo Salinas Pliego is absolutely not interested in merely buying just another luxury Miami hotel or a simple beachfront condo. He is highly strategically utilizing Florida's highly deregulated, incredibly pro-business, and fiercely crypto-friendly political environment to completely legitimize and massively expand his highly liquid, entirely decentralized corporate treasury. He definitively proves that the highly modern, technologically advanced Mexican oligarch absolutely does not just want to simply own the physical dirt and concrete of Florida. They want to integrate deeply, permanently, and profitably into the massive digital financial networks currently being built directly on its sandy shores. Number 4. The Baill dynasty. The tech aristocrats. In the highly exclusive, heavily guarded halls of global wealth, the Baill family represents the absolute, entirely undeniable aristocracy of staggering Mexican wealth. The late, highly revered family patriarch Alberto Baill commanded an absolutely staggering, multi-generational fortune that financial experts estimated to be anywhere between $7 billion and an awe-inspiring $19 billion. He brilliantly and ruthlessly built this massive, highly fortified empire by literally extracting immense, tangible value directly from the deep earth. The highly secretive family exercises absolute control over Grupo Baill, a truly colossal, multi-industry conglomerate. The absolute crown jewel of this massive corporate portfolio is Industrias Peñoles, which widely ranks as one of the absolute largest, most highly productive silver mining companies on the entire planet. But this highly ambitious dynasty absolutely did not stop at simply extracting and selling raw, heavy commodities. They also completely, utterly monopolized the highly lucrative, high-margin consumer retail market by outright owning El Palacio de Hierro. This is the massive, ultra-luxury Mexican department store chain that serves directly as the high-end equivalent of Saks Fifth Avenue, or the legendary Harrods, strictly for the highly demanding Latin American elite. While physically mining raw silver ore and selling incredibly expensive luxury handbags are both highly profitable endeavors, they are fundamentally traditional industries deeply rooted in the economic models of the 20th century. The highly forward-thinking Baill dynasty fiercely protected their massive, multi-generational corporate empire by deliberately, systematically ensuring that the youngest, newly minted heirs absolutely did not simply rest quietly on their massive inherited laurels. They highly actively, aggressively pushed the entire next generation of the family to heavily diversify the family's immense wealth entirely away from heavy physical commodities and traditional retail storefronts. Instead, they mandated a massive, highly calculated strategic shift directly toward the infinite, highly lucrative scalability of modern artificial intelligence and highly advanced digital logistics networks. The absolute ultimate, highly modern financial power move of the sprawling Baill dynasty is currently being flawlessly executed by the highly educated young heir, Gonzalo Hevia Baill. Despite his powerful family's immense, deeply entrenched political and economic power located squarely in Mexico City, Gonzalo highly strategically established his primary, highly active operational base heavily in the city of Miami, Florida. He officially founded H Beyond, a highly sophisticated, incredibly well-capitalized international asset management and venture investment firm that currently boasts major, highly active offices in both Miami and New York City. He absolutely did not follow the traditional path of investing his massive inheritance in standard, slow-moving commercial real estate. Instead, he highly aggressively targeted wildly transformative, highly disruptive technologies. He has successfully launched highly advanced AI companies and heavily funded smart locker logistics startups, such as the highly innovative company known as Lock. He brilliantly utilizes the highly strategic, incredibly valuable geographic location of Miami, which effectively acts as the absolute ultimate geographic and highly liquid financial bridge, perfectly connecting Latin America and the United States, to seamlessly, highly aggressively deploy the massive, seemingly infinite Baill family capital directly into cutting-edge American tech infrastructure. The general public overwhelmingly assumes that highly established old money families are inherently deeply conservative, forever chained, and tied strictly to the massive traditional industries that originally made them incredibly rich. The brilliant Baill dynasty completely and permanently shatters this outdated, highly naive illusion. They clearly recognize that the absolute true future of massive global wealth is absolutely not found buried deep in a dark silver mine. It is ultimately found humming quietly inside a highly cooled, massive digital server farm. By successfully establishing a massive, highly capitalized investment beachhead directly in Miami, Gonzalo Hevia Baill definitively proves that the absolute ultimate, highest-level luxury for a highly wealthy foreign mining dynasty is taking the staggering billions physically extracted from the Mexican dirt and ruthlessly using it to buy massive equity stakes in the American digital future. Number 3. The Aramburuzabala family, the private equity queen. The truly immense, terrifyingly liquid, and highly scrutinized wealth of Maria Asuncion Aramburuzabala is absolutely legendary in global financial circles. It is deeply, fundamentally rooted in the absolute, totally undeniable global domination of the highly lucrative commercial alcohol trade. Her visionary grandfather, a highly driven Spanish immigrant, was a primary co-founder of the legendary Grupo Modelo. This is the deeply iconic, highly successful brewing behemoth entirely responsible for globally introducing highly popular, massive brands like Corona and Modelo Especial directly to the thirsty world. As the primary, highly powerful heiress to this truly staggering, highly profitable brewing empire, Maria Asuncion absolutely did not simply sit back and allow powerful male corporate executives to dictate her financial future or the trajectory of her family's wealth. Instead, she highly aggressively took the firm reins of the massive corporate board and brilliantly engineered the absolute ultimate, truly historic global liquidity event. In the highly historic year of 2013, she brilliantly orchestrated, aggressively negotiated, and successfully finalized the complete sale of Grupo Modelo directly to the massive multinational brewing conglomerate AB InBev. The sale was executed for an absolutely earth-shattering, highly staggering sum of $20 billion. This single, incredibly monumental corporate transaction instantly minted her as the absolute wealthiest woman in the entire nation of Mexico. Furthermore, it provided her with a truly terrifying, highly liquid war chest of purely liquid capital that most private equity firms can only dream of possessing. Inheriting a massive, highly successful physical corporate empire is certainly one thing. Successfully and entirely converting it directly into massive liquid cash and brilliantly protecting it from the severe ravages of inflation and constant political instability requires absolute, totally undeniable financial genius. Immediately following the highly monumental historic corporate sale, Maria Asuncion heavily fortified their massive new wealth by officially establishing Trisalia Capital. The name highly symbolically translates to three allies, deeply representing herself, her highly trusted mother, and her sister. She systematically, methodically, and incredibly ruthlessly diversified her massive billions entirely away from the highly volatile, deeply unpredictable Mexican peso. She also completely moved away from the highly dangerous single-sector risk of physical alcohol production. She successfully transformed her highly secretive family office into a highly sophisticated, completely apex private equity firm. Trisalia Capital highly aggressively targets ultra-secure, completely dollar-denominated physical assets entirely across the United States. The absolute ultimate, highly visible manifestation of Trisalia Capital's raw financial power was a massive, highly calculated, multi-billion-dollar invasion directly into the highly lucrative commercial real estate and highly complex technology infrastructure of Florida and the broader American Sunbelt. She brilliantly recognized that the physical, highly industrial brewing of beer was fundamentally a 20th century fortune. The true, highly scalable 21st century fortune belonged exclusively and entirely to the massive landlords of the modern American economy. She aggressively poured hundreds of massive millions of dollars into directly acquiring massive, highly exclusive Class A multifamily real estate developments completely across the state of Florida. Simultaneously, she intelligently invested incredibly heavily in the massive subterranean data centers and highly complex telecommunications networks that entirely, fundamentally power the modern American internet. She seamlessly, brilliantly transitioned from simply providing the physical beverages of the working class to completely owning the highly advanced, completely physical architecture absolutely required by the wealthy coastal elite. The American public overwhelmingly and completely incorrectly views the massive success of Corona beer as a massive, complete triumph of American corporate marketing. What they completely, entirely, and fundamentally misunderstand is the true, completely hidden victor of that highly historic corporate transaction. The brilliant Aramburuzabala family successfully utilized the massive global thirst for imported beer to perfectly extract staggering billions of dollars in pure cash. They completely and entirely liquidated their massive operational risk at the absolute, perfect peak of its financial valuation. They successfully took that massive, highly liquid pile of money, entirely quietly crossed the Gulf of Mexico, and brilliantly leveraged it to highly successfully become one of the absolute most powerful, completely invisible landlords operating in the entire state of Florida. They absolutely no longer simply sell a physical product you drink. They entirely quietly, highly securely own the very physical infrastructure where you proudly live and actively work. Number 2. The Slim Family, the Skyline Underwriters. Carlos Slim Helú is a powerful name that commands absolute, unquestioned, and deeply fearful reverence in the highly exclusive halls of global finance. For many years, he proudly and publicly held the highly coveted title of the absolute richest man on planet Earth. He brilliantly built his totally incomprehensible fortune, which is currently hovering incredibly near the $100 billion mark, through a highly brutal, completely monopolistic domination of the massive Latin American telecommunications sector. During the massive, highly controversial wave of privatization of the Mexican economy in the 1990s, Slim highly aggressively acquired Telmex. Through this single monumental acquisition, he effectively and completely cornered the entire national phone grid of the country. He ruthlessly expanded this massive initial monopoly directly into América Móvil, successfully establishing a massive, truly colossal corporate leviathan that completely controls the highly lucrative cellular networks and vital internet infrastructure for hundreds of millions of dependent people entirely across the continent. While his sprawling telecommunications empire reliably generates staggering billions of dollars in daily, highly liquid cash flow, Carlos Slim deeply protected his powerful dynasty by successfully establishing his very own highly centralized, entirely private financial fortress, Grupo Financiero en Bursa. By completely owning his own massive, highly capitalized commercial bank, Slim completely and permanently insulated his powerful family from the unpredictable whims, tight lending standards, and high interest rates of third-party corporate lenders. He essentially became a highly powerful, completely sovereign financial entity. He is entirely capable of single-handedly underwriting massive international mega-projects entirely on his own highly favorable terms, utilizing his massive bank to aggressively deploy his endless telecom profits directly into hard, highly valuable physical assets globally. Carlos Slim absolutely did not just simply buy a luxurious, multi-million-dollar vacation home in Florida to relax on the beach. He highly aggressively weaponized the massive balance sheet of Banco Inbursa to physically, literally underwrite the massive construction of the glittering Miami skyline. While many highly leveraged American regional banks panicked, severely tightened their lending standards, and halted construction loans during recent, highly volatile economic shifts, Slim's massive Mexican bank confidently stepped in as the absolute ultimate apex lender in the market. Banco Inbursa powerfully provided the absolute majority of an incredibly staggering $600 million construction debt package, specifically to build the massive, ultra-luxury Cipriani-branded condo project, located directly in the absolute heart of Miami's highly exclusive Brickell financial district. Showing absolutely no signs of slowing down his massive capital deployment, they simultaneously deployed another massive $90 million specifically to finance the highly anticipated Ryder residences, strategically located directly between the booming neighborhoods of Wynwood and Midtown. Furthermore, outside of his massive corporate lending, Slim personally acquired and highly aggressively developed massive, multi-million-dollar sprawling waterfront mansions situated in the highly exclusive, heavily guarded enclave of Hallandale Beach. When local Florida residents and wealthy international tourists look up in awe at the massive, towering, highly glittering new skyscrapers rapidly rising entirely across the downtown Miami skyline, they naturally assume they are looking at a pure display of American real estate dominance. They are completely, fundamentally oblivious to the underlying, highly complex financial reality of the city. The highly publicized developers, whose flashy names are brightly plastered on the massive construction billboards, are very often nothing more than highly leveraged, severely indebted operators. The true, absolute, uncompromising power over the property fundamentally belongs entirely to the highly capitalized entity that holds the massive mortgage. Carlos Slim's powerful family is absolutely not just passively participating in the massive Miami real estate boom. They are actively acting as the highly powerful central bank that literally, financially, allows the heavy concrete to be poured in the first place. They definitively proved that the absolute ultimate financial flex is not simply buying the highly expensive penthouse, it is entirely financing the construction of the entire massive building. Number 1. The Beckmann Family, the landlords of Coral Gables. To truly and fully comprehend the absolute, undeniable apex of staggering Mexican wealth currently operating within the borders of Florida, you must absolutely look at a highly secretive dynasty whose massive fortune actually predates the very existence of the United States itself. The highly powerful Beckmann family, expertly led by the revered patriarch Juan Francisco Beckmann Vidal, absolutely controls Baill, the massive, highly lucrative corporate entity standing directly behind the iconic Jose Cuervo brand. The incredible family's highly lucrative business literally dates all the way back to the historic year of 1758, when King Ferdinand VI of Spain officially and legally granted them the completely exclusive land rights to plant blue agave and commercially produce tequila. Over the incredible course of well over 250 years, the fiercely loyal family fiercely protected this highly valuable heritage, successfully expanding a highly localized Mexican spirit directly into an absolute, totally undeniable global beverage monopoly. Today, the incredibly powerful family commands a truly staggering combined net worth of well over $7 billion, entirely controlling the absolute largest, most highly productive tequila producer on the entire planet. Decades ago, the highly intelligent Beckmann family clearly realized they were dangerously, highly severely overexposed to the deeply unpredictable, highly volatile domestic real estate market located in Mexico. To perfectly protect their staggering, multi-generational, highly liquid tequila wealth from economic collapse, they successfully established Agave Holdings, a highly secretive, incredibly powerful, multi-billion-dollar real estate investment firm securely based entirely within the United States. They successfully took the massive, highly reliable liquid cash flow constantly generated by millions of Americans eagerly consuming Jose Cuervo tequila and systematically, ruthlessly funneled it directly back into prime, highly valuable American commercial real estate. This brilliant financial loop completely and permanently insulated their massive family fortune from the constant, highly destructive political volatility frequently found throughout Latin America. The absolute ultimate, highly supreme, completely undeniable power move of the massive Beckmann dynasty is currently unfolding right now in the ultra-exclusive, incredibly wealthy, highly restricted enclave of Coral Gables, Florida. The massive entity known as Agave Holdings absolutely did not just simply buy a nice, standard office building in the area. They highly aggressively orchestrated the entire massive development of Plaza Coral Gables. This is a truly breathtaking, massively sprawling, $600+ million mixed-use mega-project. Spanning well over an incredible 2.5 million square feet of prime real estate, this highly staggering development completely and permanently redefined the entire physical and economic geography of the wealthy city. It proudly houses the highly luxurious Loews Hotel, massive arrays of elite residential apartments, and completely massive Class A commercial office towers that have highly successfully secured Titan-level corporate tenants like Bacardi, Apple, and several major Wall Street investment banks. Most incredibly, illustrating their absolute dominance over the region, Agave Holdings also completely owns the massive adjacent 396 Alhambra building. This highly secure, massive property was highly aggressively and selectively chosen to serve directly as the official, highly coveted global headquarters for FIFA during the massive upcoming 2026 World Cup. In the highly complex, heavily indebted world of massive commercial real estate development, virtually every single major project is heavily funded by a highly complex, heavily leveraged syndicate of greedy Wall Street private equity firms, massive public pension funds, and highly leveraged, highly expensive bank loans. The brilliant Beckmann family completely and entirely shatters this entire, highly accepted industry standard. Agave Holdings completely, entirely self-funded the massive, highly expensive $600 million Plaza Coral Gables development using entirely their very own, highly liquid family capital. They highly actively, aggressively refused absolutely any outside co-investors or expensive bank loans. This is a level of sheer, unadulterated financial violence and absolute capital dominance that is almost completely incomprehensible to standard American developers. They absolutely do not have to answer to a highly demanding board of directors. They absolutely do not have to quickly satisfy short-term quarterly return metrics for angry outside shareholders. And they possess the infinite, multi-generational patience to securely hold these massive assets for hundreds of years. The highly powerful Beckmann family proves completely definitively that the absolute most powerful, highly capitalized entities currently operating in Florida are absolutely not homegrown, heavily indebted American developers. They are a deeply historic, 250-year-old Mexican tequila dynasty that entirely quietly purchased the absolute beating center of Miami's most exclusive, highly wealthy suburb entirely in cold, hard cash. Florida is absolutely not just a glamorous vacation destination. It is a privately owned, highly fortified, completely tax-free vault specifically designed for Mexico's most powerful industrial oligarchs. Which of these massive empires holds the most absolute, terrifying control over the state? If you truly want to deeply understand who really, fundamentally runs the world, make sure to like and subscribe to Global Status. We strictly track the massive money, so you absolutely don't have to.